You are listening to the So Now What podcast with Lana Manikowski, episode number 171. So now what? These three words raced through my mind time and time again during my journey through fertility treatments. I tried desperately to have a child, but never was able. I yearned for a community to join that could understand my struggles. I couldn't find one, so I created one with the So Now What podcast. I love that you found us. Hello, gorgeous. Welcome back to another episode of the So Now What podcast. And today I want to talk about someone or something you might not be hearing much about this week. The man who never got to be a dad. Maybe it's your husband, maybe it's a partner, your brother, your best friend, a relative. But today I want to talk about him and I want to talk about you. Because if you have been through fertility treatments and ended up without the child that you dreamed of, you likely carried a lot of pain, a lot of heartbreak, and let's be honest, probably a ton of guilt, especially if your body, and if you're watching me on YouTube, you will see my air quotes, if your body was the problem. If you were the one who was told that you had the infertility diagnosis, maybe because of lower ovarian reserve, maybe advanced maternal age, maybe PCOS, maybe endometriosis, whatever the case was, you are the one who felt like you carried the burden and you probably blamed yourself for not being able to have a child. And you believed that you were the reason that your husband never got to become a dad. I know that I did. And when Jack and I were going through IVF, I was so consumed by my own grief that I never stopped to realize that he was grieving too. I look back at it now and I see signs that were there, but I was so wrapped into it being my body that was the thing that had the problem, that I was the one who had to mentally prepare for all of the appointments and the blood draws and the timing and the juggling of schedules. And I was the one who had the hormones that were off the charts, navigating cycles and doing the research and planning. And I really thought like I was carrying all of it. But what I've come to realize and what I want to share with you today is that while I was mourning the loss of motherhood, my husband was mourning the loss of fatherhood. And he didn't always have the words for it. And to be quite honest with you, he doesn't talk about it much even today. He rarely cried or showed the emotion and the heartache in the same way that I did, but the grief was absolutely there. And with it being Father's Day this coming Sunday, at least here in the US, it has a way of making that grief louder, even if nobody sees it. Father's Day can be similar to what Mother's Day feels like for you, even though your partner or your husband or your friend, cousin, godparent, whoever it is that you might know while you're listening to this episode, this person that you know who is unexpectedly childless or never became the dad that he wanted to be, he might not talk about it. And so it can feel invisible for men who dreamed about fatherhood, but never got to live it out. And they don't have the words to express it. They're watching the commercials, just like we were seeing the Mother's Day commercials, all the store displays. Maybe it's barbecue invitations, or maybe it's buddies at work or in their social circle that are talking about Father's Day plans and what they have going on with their kids. And it can feel really isolating to talk about how affected you are because so often, and yes, this is a generalization, men are taught not to show their emotions. They are not taught to show weakness or sadness. And so it can feel really hard for your man if he is navigating this day that is built for dads who have kids. This year, I decided that I was going to do some shopping early, some Father's Day shopping. I was, of course, getting cards for my father and my father-in-law. Hi, Dad. I know you're probably listening and you're going to hear this before Father's Day. So yes, I was getting cards for you guys. And I was like, I'm going to pick out a Father's Day card for Jack. I'm going to get one not only from me, but one from Coco, because even Coco knows that he is the best dog dad ever created. I'm excited. That small gesture opened up a conversation for me to have with myself about what it's like to ask my husband how he wants to spend the day. I can ask him, what do you want to do? How do you feel with Father's Day coming up? Because he matters too. His grief, the hope that he had, and a place for his story, even if he doesn't want to tell it. I feel like it's so important to bring it up to him. And I want you to know that if you've ever had or never had that conversation with your partner, it's not too late. You didn't fail by not seeing sooner that he might be grieving something that you felt like you carried the burden for. You're not selfish for being wrapped in your own grief during your treatments or during your fertility journey. And you're not broken because you didn't know that things needed to be addressed. What I'd like to remind you is that you did the best that you could with that emotional capacity that you had. And today might be the day that you begin to offer yourself some forgiveness. Because we often lead with this place of feeling ashamed or feeling like a bad partner or feeling like we should have done better. But girl, you did the best that you could. You were navigating so much. And maybe it was too hard to even notice what was going on beyond the depths of the things that were going on in your soul. And yeah, you might feel sad that you didn't know that your husband was going through so much or your partner was grieving just as badly, but you did the best that you could. So, this is something that I want you to know. If you have been carrying around this belief that you robbed your partner of fatherhood, or that they might have been better off marrying somebody else who could have given them the child that they dreamed of, this guilt is not yours to keep anymore. For so long, I remember thinking, gosh, if Jack would have just married the girl that he was dating before me, he might have had a better chance of being a dad. Or feeling like I was not the right partner for him because I robbed him of his dream of fatherhood. I want you to know that you're not a disappointment. I guarantee you that your husband or your partner does not see you as broken, and your relationship is not less meaningful because it didn't result in children. You can take a minute right now and let that settle into your heart. The childless future that you guys are living might not have been the dream. It might not have been part of the conversations that you had when you talked about whether you wanted kids or how many kids you wanted, or if you wanted to, like us, stay in the city or go out to the suburbs and buy a house in a neighborhood that had tons of families and good school systems. Those things might not be part of what your life is all about now, but your life together is still worthy of love and worthy of connection and worthy of tenderness. And Father's Day can be part of that tenderness. So maybe this year, write your partner or your husband a card. Make them their favorite breakfast. Maybe go do the thing that he loves doing. For me, it would be asking my husband if he wants to go driving around and looking at different architecture because he is obsessed with architecture as we are making plans to build a new house, our dream house on the beach. But whatever you do, simply sit with them and let them know that I see you. Maybe tell them, I see you. I know this day is hard and I want to honor it with you. And it doesn't have to be complicated or performative. It can just be a real honest conversation or questions. And if you haven't read my new book yet called So Now What, it is the most amazing resource that I wish I would have had when I left my fertility treatments without a baby. I wrote the book to talk about things like this. And specifically in chapter 25 of my book, So Now What, there's a whole chapter dedicated to the emotions that feel so complex around Father's Day when your partner never got to become a biological dad. And I wrote it because no one told me how to do this. No one gave me the words for how to support my husband on a day that I wanted to be there for him, the person that I love, that has a heart that probably quietly breaks when he sees ads for Father's Day or thinks about years ahead as we grow older and our dads aren't around to celebrate Father's Day with. So if you're wondering how to show up for your husband or your partner and how to forgive yourself or how to make space for both of your grief, this chapter is for you in my book, So Now What? I'll put a link to it in the show notes because not only is it a powerful book, if you're wanting to figure out how to move forward in a life that feels so stuck because your dream of parenthood didn't happen. But before we close today, I just want to tell you that if you're childless, not by choice, and you're still trying to figure out what life looks like, you're not alone. And you don't have to figure this out on your own. If you're ready to take the next step towards creating a life that you feel connected to, one that feels meaningful and fulfilling, I want you to know that I can help you. This is why I do the work that I do, because there was a huge void and a huge silence, not only from my fertility clinic, but from the people around me, not because they didn't want to, but they didn't know how to support me. That is why I left my corporate job, because I wanted to help women create a life that they love, even though they couldn't figure out what that would be like and how to do it. If you want to do it now, you can book a free 45-minute Thrive call. I talk about this every single week because I want you to take me up on this. I want you to borrow 45 minutes of my time so that you can start to figure out what is holding you back and what is possible for you in this next chapter, not just for you, but for both of you, because the work that I do helps you create this connection with your partner. It helps you create a connection with yourself so that you can feel like you are showing up in so many different areas in your life that you feel like you had to cower away from because your dream of parenthood didn't become what you thought it was going to be. And if you want to follow along this week, I am doing a whole series on Instagram, and it is called A Letter to My Childless Husband. So I did part 1 on Monday. Every day I'm going to come out with some new content that's all about supporting your partner, your husband, the person in your life that is unexpectedly childless and is not a dad. And I'd love for you to follow along. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you can find me at lana.manikowski. I just want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for being brave in all that you do. And thank you for loving the people in your life through the tenderness of days like this. I love you. And remember that it's never too late to discover your meaning. I'll talk to you next week. Hey, real quick, I just wanted to tell you about an awesome resource I created. If you have ever found yourself in conversations with people, or maybe people offering you suggestions about what you should do to become a mom, it's called The Top 27 Things People Say When You're Childless and How to Respond. You can get your copy free at lanamanikowski.com/things people say.